Hi guys, welcome to Creations by Karen. Today I'm going to talk to you about things you need to start making wreaths. I live in Canada and we don't have a whole lot of selection on what we can find to make wreaths. And oftentimes when we do find something that's really good, that it's not cost effective per se. So I'm going to show you everything that I use in order to make my wreaths. And that is fairly low cost. I mean, certainly I do spend a little bit of money when I need to on things that are important, but we're going to go ahead and start that. The things that I use to make wreaths, pretty simple. You can find it really in any grocery, or not every, any department store, Home Depot, Michael's, and you can order things online as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is tools that I need to actually make the wreaths. Now, I was able to purchase this kit of essentials, things that I needed to make wreaths from Michael's. I think it's usually regular about $16 or $18, but I did have a 55% coupon, so I was able to get it about half price. And in it comes quite a few things that you need to make wreaths. I need needle nose pliers because I use a lot of zip ties when I'm making my wreaths. And I have very small hands and these work perfectly. And it comes actually with two sets, a fine set and then a medium set. And it also comes with something that I can use to cut tie wraps with. I do have a pair of needle nose pliers, large ones, but they're just too bulky for my hands. But I did also buy some wire cutters that if I'm doing a lot of them, I go ahead and do that. Now, when I first started, I used cuticle cutters to cut my tie wraps with, and they worked perfectly fine. But a lot of people that watch my videos on Facebook thought I shouldn't be using cuticle cutters. Well, I can get them at the dollar store here in Canada for $1.25. So whatever works for you, go ahead. You also need some scissors. You need several different pairs of scissors. You need scissors that'll cut paper because you don't want to dull your scissors cutting paper if you're going to be using it for fabric. I don't usually use it for fabric, but sometimes I have a pair of scissors that I've set apart that are specifically for fabric, scissors that I've set apart specifically to cut paper, and also a pair of scissors that are just like already dull, and I've used those just to cut tie wraps with if I need to. I am going to be using large and small, forget what you call these, X-Acto knives maybe, and I use these mostly to cut my styrofoam balls when I'm doing the centers of my wreath, and also I use them for cutting. Oh, sorry, my cat's come for a visit. Also cutting for things like pieces of wood that I want to use for centerpieces. And sorry about this. She likes it when I'm home. For also things that are made with MDF and I want to cut down to size. I use the large ones for that. You are going to need a hot glue gun. I simply got this at my local dollar store. It was $3, I think. But I do spend a little bit of extra money to buy Gorilla Glue sticks. If you're making wreaths to sell or to give to someone, it's important that the things stay on. So using Gorilla Glue, it's ensuring that the whatever you're putting on your wreath stays on. If you just use dollar store glue sticks, it doesn't hold the same as. And I'm all about things staying where they're supposed to be. So yes, you're going to pay a little bit more. I found the best place to buy these is at Walmart. I think it was $12, and it has 75 glue sticks in it, so that works out for me. I don't mind paying the extra money if it works well. I like to use small rubber bands. If I'm making my wreaths and I'm making a lot of them at one time, I use smaller rubber bands, and I can sit upstairs and I can watch TV and I can make the petals, and I just put a little rubber band on it, and then when I go to make the wreath I can just slip them into the wreath form, which works really well. I use 4-inch zip ties for most of my wreaths, and I get those at Home Depot, and I think I paid $23 for 1,000, which is really a good deal. You could certainly order them on Amazon, but they're a little bit more expensive there. I did go out and buy this wood burner. Cutting mesh with scissors is fine, and a lot of people do that. I found that with cutting scissors, and this was just a trial and error. When I started making the wreaths, I was online and I was watching people. I thought I could do that. But it has a lot of fray, especially the mesh that we get here in Canada. It frays. So I bought a wood burner, and it comes, I got this one, I think, at Michael's. I think it was regularly $28. Once again, I had a 55% coupon, so it was significantly cheaper than that. And it does come with different ends to it. So for this particular one, it came with two other ends to it, or four actually, four ends to it. There's like a fine one like this, one that's a bit more dull that I've never used, and also one that's kind of like this. And basically I use the same one all the time, and it's a bit larger and it has a curve on the end of it. That just works for me. Certainly you do whatever you think works for you. Everybody's different. Everybody's crafting is different, and you just need to make your own crafts your own, right? So you find the best way that works for you, and you just go with it. That's my best advice. I'm going to talk a little bit about wreath forms. So I'm going to show you the wreath forms that I have in my home right now. I'll start off with a 8-inch wreath form. Now, if you get these at, say, Michael's, they're 4-rung wreath forms, okay? So this one only has 3. I just made it work. That's just really important for me, just to be able to make things work. And these come 2 in a set, and you can get them at the local Dollar Tree, not Dollarama, for $1.25 for 2, which is really inexpensive. The next size is a 10-inch wreath form. You can't get these at any dollar store. I had to buy this at Michael's. I think it was $5.47 for 1. And of course I had to use a coupon because, you know, I don't pay full price for anything. So I was able to get it for half price, which is still fine. And that's a 10-inch wreath form. And another wreath form that you can get at my local dollar store is a 14-inch wreath form. And these were $1.25 a piece, and they work great as well. You also have a heart-shaped wreath form that I was able to get around Valentine's Day at my local dollar store. Once again, it's a 3-rung wreath form, and it works perfectly well. And it can be used for a lot of different things, not just for making hearts, right? So if you go through my other tutorials, you'll see that I use this to make butterflies. I put 2 together to make a dragonfly. So it's very versatile wreath form as well. And, you know, that's the fun of doing this, is just to see what you can make from things, right? Okay, there's a couple of other wreath forms that I've just found recently, which are really good. And it's from a company in Canada called Unique in the Creek. It's a local company. It's out of Stony Creek, Ontario. And they make these wreath forms. And these are really good because they are recycled plastic. They already have the holes put in them. They work up really quickly because there's no thinking involved. You just have to put your tie wraps on and off to the races. Now you will have to use 6-inch tie wraps when you make these wreaths because there's quite a bit of difference in separation of the holes, and a 4-inch zip tie really just doesn't give you the space that you need to make it, as well as putting the mesh in, right? Does that make sense? They also have, that's a small flower board from Unique in the Creek. They do have large flower boards. I don't have one right now, but I just have the small ones. But they have a lot of different wreath forms there, all made of the recycled plastic, all have the holes put in them. There's a lot of tutorials on Unique in the Creek on how to make wreaths. Certainly just go and check out their YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see what they make with these. Also with the Unique in the Creek, they have something called a character board, and that's what this is. So once again, it's called a character board, and basically the center has nothing in it, no holes or anything, but it has holes on the outside for placement of mesh. And so the good thing about this is that you can take, and they sell these at Unique in the Creek, I think they're about $5 each, sort of these laser printed centers for these wreath forms, and it just sort of fits down into the center of the wreath form, and you use Mod Podge to apply them, and then you can just go ahead and make the wreath with that already in the center, and that works great. Okay, so those are the different wreath forms that I have. Certainly at Unique in the Creek, they have tree boards and they have cross boards and all sorts of different boards that you're able to purchase. Now they are a little bit more expensive, and that's fine, because from where I sit is that it takes me half the amount of time to make a wreath using the Unique in the Creek wreath board. And time is money, right? Especially if you're making a lot of them and you want to make sure that you can get so many done in a certain period of time. Yeah, I don't mind spending the extra money, and they're very good quality, and they're very, like, it's just ridiculous. Also, what I have is this glass cutting board that I got at, I believe I got it at Dollarama, and I think I paid $4 for it. When you're cutting mesh, making mesh things, it's important that you have a grid that you can place and cut. I use my wood burner, so I don't want to use my wood burner on something that it can burn, like a table or a tablecloth, or really even a wood cutting board. The wood burner will cut right through it. And the good thing about using a wood burner is, yes, it seals the sides of the mesh that you're cutting through, but it also cuts into your table. So, I mean, if you want a new table, go ahead, use your wood burner right on the table. But I don't really recommend that. So I always tell people just to get a piece of glass, whether it's a cutting board, or if you go to a local glass store, they often have remnant that you can purchase fairly reasonably. And then I put, like, on a table, the grid that I want to put, whether I want to have 6-inch or 12-inch or 24-inch or whatever. You can put this over top of it and cut according to the grid. So certainly you can get grids at Michael's. I think they're like $50, and I'm not going to spend $50, even with a coupon, $25. That's a lot of money to spend on a piece of plastic. So I make do with what I can. Okay? You're always going to have something for garbage, and I got these at Dollarama, and they're really handy. Also, if I'm online and I'm doing a tutorial and I'm doing a draw, I can put people's names in there, and it's small and it's handy. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and talk about paint. Oftentimes I paint my centers before I Mod Podge and glue them. So there's a lot of different paints out there. This is some paint from my local dollar store. And it's fine, and it's pink, and it's what I wanted. Then I got this one at Michael's because I had a coupon, and it was a little bit more expensive. I think it was maybe $2, and obviously a difference in size. I need 4 coats of this to give me 1 coat of this. So the math is pretty simple. I'm using way less paint and way less time using a more expensive paint than I am using a dollar store paint. I always go with the more expensive paint. Time is money, right? So you want to make sure that, yeah, you're going to spend a little bit more money, but it's all worth it sort of in the end. Here she comes again. Okay, off you go, Lexi. My cat is quite enjoying this whole pandemic stay-at-home thing because I've never been here this much. And okay, let's talk about mesh, all right? Now, in the States, they have a ridiculous amount of mesh to choose from. Certainly in Canada, we do not. I can probably count on one hand where I can get good quality mesh in Canada. And certainly you can get mesh at Michael's, but I have a problem spending $17 on a roll of mesh. So this is what a roll of mesh from Michael's would cost. It is 10 inches by 19 inches. So a lot of wreaths that you make call for 10 inches of square to make a wreath. So you'll get like 19 feet from this. What I found recently is at Easter time, I went into my local dollar store because I was looking for something completely different. And I found this, and it was 6-inch deco mesh. Now, it's quite fine, and all my wreaths that I've made with 6-inch deco mesh, that's this pink one, I use this. I've doubled the petals. So I just put the petals or the deco mesh together and cut both with the wood burner. These are $1.25. So when you think that you're going to use one roll of deco mesh. And I think they have like 6-inch deco mesh at Michael's, and I think it's a roll for, I think it's $14. I can get 4 rolls for a lot less than that, like $5 for 4 rolls, which is a lot less than $14. So it's all about what you want. So there's your 10-inch mesh from Michael's, 6-inch mesh from Dollarama, and I think Dollar Tree has it now as well. Sorry. And then Dollarama also has this 21-inch mesh, which I was shocked how nice this mesh is. I've done a lot of wreaths using this. I do double it because it's quite fine, but it makes a beautiful wreath. And often I cut it in half using my wood burner, of course, and I can make 2 wreaths out of one 21-inch roll of mesh, which is awesome. Now, I will say also, while I'm thinking about it, is if you are using a wood burner, it's really important to protect your nose and mouth if you're cutting a lot of mesh at one time. Certainly you're cutting through plastic. A mesh has plastic in it. So it's really important to protect your nose and mouth, and also make sure there's no pets around when you're cutting the mesh, because it can be quite toxic. So certainly protect yourself if you're using a wood burner. Also, they have something called a bag sealer. I haven't got one yet. I am going to get one just because I've seen them online and I've seen people use them in tutorials. Works on the same premise as a wood burner, but certainly less work involved with it. So I guess I'll have to check that out. There's also another mesh that you can get here in Canada, and it's called a jute mesh. It's printed jute, and then this is what it looks like. It's quite a bit thicker than regular deco mesh. I just use scissors to cut this. There's very little fray with this mesh. This was $3 at Dollarama. I did use 4 rolls of it when I made my wreath using this, but it was a learning experience. I didn't know how much I would need when I made my wreath, so there's that. Comes in a lot of different colors and a lot of different styles. This was nice. It was polka dots. Also, I like to finish my backs of my wreaths because I do sell them, and I always want to make sure the backs are finished. Certainly, if you're using a Unique in the Creek board, there's nothing on the back of the board that can harm a door or a wall. When you're using a wreath form, 10-inch or 11-inch or 12-inch wreath form, you certainly should do something to the back if you're selling it or giving it away. So what I found is I got these pieces of foam. These I got at Michael's, but I also can get them at a place called Len's Mill Store here in London, Ontario, Canada. I believe they have one in Kitchener as well. And it is probably half the size of this. But this works really well. Just cut it, and I use a hole punch to punch the holes in it, and it works great. You're going to need to get some deco mesh if you're using just a regular wire wreath form. For the center, if you plan to put petals on it, you can get this at Walmart. It's fairly expensive. I think it's just over $2 for this particular sheet. Depends on the size of the inside of the wreath form that you're using, how many you're going to get from one of these. Comes in a white, actually. I've seen it only at white at Walmart. At Len's Mill Store, where I get before, unfortunately it's closed right now because of the pandemic, but it comes in multiple different colors, and I think it is $1.39 a sheet, which is the same size as this. So hopefully you have a Len's Mill Store close to you. To finish the back of my edges, my wreath as well, I want to put something on the back. And for my large 14-inch wreath forms, I got this at Dollar Tree, and it's like a outdoor placemat. And what I did is just cut it to size. I placed it down, took my wreath form like this, placed it down, and traced it around, and then cut it out and zip tied it to the back of my wreath form. So that works really good too. It's all what you think works for you. For $1.25, worked perfect. I'm going to talk a little bit about the centers of the wreath. So you can use a lot of different methods to put centers on your wreath. I do a lot of flower petals, so I like to have different ways of making the flower petals. This is one that I did, what has small roses on it. Basically, all I did was took a styrofoam ball and cut it in half. I painted it white, which I didn't have to really because it is a white ball. I applied these little roses so that I got I think I got them at Dollarama. They come like this. I think they were $1.25. And I just placed them on the ball. I actually put glue on them as well because I always want to make sure that nothing's going to fall off. And then I just filled in the parts of the wreath that needed some filler with pearls, which worked really nice too. That's good. You can also use roping. This I got at Dollar Tree, I believe. And basically what I did is I took, say, this wreath, or this wreath center, styrofoam bowl, cut it in half, put a hole in the top of it, kind of stuffed this piece of rope into the top and just glued it going around and around and around. And it made a really nice rope center, which works really well. You can also paint it and just put some Mod Podge on it, put some glitter on it. This is one that I did is black and it's very glittery. So to fix this to my wreath, what I did is took a chenille stem. I took some floral wire and cut it in small pieces, made it into a U. And then I fixed the chenille stem with the floral wire. Now you can always go and buy the floral wire or the floral pegs at Walmart, or I think they have them at Michael's too. But I think you got maybe 40 for $8 or something, which is a crazy amount of money. This works really well. And then I hot glued a small piece of foam onto my back of it. And then I also put some more of the U's under the back of it. That's very secure. That is not coming off. Okay, so that's where you can use paint. You can use Mod Podge. Mod Podge, I would recommend getting it at your local dollar store. You can get it a bottle of Mod Podge for $1.25 usually. And at Michael's, the same size of Mod Podge is $6. All right, so get it at the dollar store. Same Mod Podge, get it at the dollar store. I also like to use sometimes fabric to make my mesh centers. All right, so I made this center for someone who is a dog lover, this particular dog. And basically all I did was got this small round disc at, I believe it was Dollarama. And then I took just a piece of fabric, placed it on top like this. Now I did hot glue the edges of it, so it hot glued down. And then I just took it and sort of twisted it down and just made more U's out of the floral wire and just stuck them in, right? And you're not going to see this because this is on the underside, right? So do things that are cost effective and that work well. I'm all about it. Things that work well for you, things that sometimes might work for me, certainly won't work for you. So you just got to find your own way. And the last one I'm going to show you is buying this. I do a wreath that has a saying on the inside of it. It's actually an angel wing wreath. It is in one of my tutorials down below. Certainly go and look at that. But what I did is I got these at my local dollar store, and it's an oval disc. Now it does have holes in it, so I just took some putty, I guess, and filled these holes, sanded it off, and then I just painted it white. And I do have a Cricut and I have another machine that does the same thing, can't think of the name, Silhouette. And I use them for putting phrases and what have you on them. I initially bought my Silhouette on Kijiji. I think I paid, I don't know, $50 for it. It works great. And often I'll take that to my craft shows if I'm personalizing at my craft shows. and I want to have it with vinyl and use the silhouette, I do that. My son, who is wonderful, bought me a silhouette or a cricket for Christmas this year, which was awesome. And there certainly has more things you can do with it. I like to keep that at home because it's significantly more expensive. Yeah, you can get the vinyl. I go to online to Amazon and buy vinyl for my silhouette and my cricket, and it's about the cheapest you can get. Although Michael's does have sales, probably about once a month, where you can get vinyl. I think you can get like 4 sheets for $6, which is a pretty reasonable amount. And then if you have a coupon that says you can have 25% off your entire purchase, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable. Okay, so there's your oval centers, and you can buy round centers. You can buy different shapes of centers. Oftentimes you have to really search for these at the dollar store. So when you find them at a dollar store, buy them. All right, that's always what I say. If you see something at a dollar store and you think you could use it and make it work, just go ahead and buy it, because the next time you go, it might not be there. They don't often get the same things over and over and over. Okay, so I hope that answers some of your questions. I mean, I certainly had a lot of people message me about certain things. I have a Facebook Live that I do on Tuesdays and Thursdays where I do a lot of different crafts. And I thought, you know what, I'll do a YouTube video, and because I'm sure there's a lot more people out there that kind of are new to crafting and not sure where to start. I mean, certainly you can, if you're a crafter, you can go online and say, I can do that. Like, I can do that. But if you live in Canada, it can be challenging because you don't have the resources that you do and that they do in the States. So if you're a Canadian crafter, I hope this helps you find what you need to make crafts. I have a shipping address in Port Huron because I don't live far from the border. And if I see something I really want, I have it shipped there, and it's about an hour from London to Sarnia. But that involves crossing the border. And you know what? I'm just going to make do with what I have here in Canada because I've done it. I've made a lot of beautiful wreaths just using what's available here. So go out, have fun. Don't spend a lot of money because you don't have to. You don't have to buy everything at Michael's. You can find it other places. Hopefully when this pandemic is over, you'll be able to wander through different stores and just see what's available. Michael's has a curbside pickup, which is great because often I need to get supplies from there. And they just bring it out and throw it in my trunk, which is awesome. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and leave me a comment if you appreciate it, and a thumbs up if you enjoyed what you saw here today. Be sure to subscribe to my channel because I do crafts every Thursday and every Sunday, and I will post them on YouTube so you can see what this Canadian crafter is doing. Anyways, have a great afternoon, and I'll talk to you soon. Happy crafting.